Hi everyone, this is Aileen Miracle from Mrs. Miracle's Music Room, and today I thought I'd do a video about lesson planning. Now, lesson planning is a really complex process that involves a lot of different pieces, but I'm just going to walk you through how I set up or how I start writing my own lesson plans. The first thing I want to show you is a really great resource that you can get on the OAKE website. So if you go to www.oake.org, and then you go to publications and then purchase publications. A really great book about lesson planning is right here, Lesson Planning in a Kodaly Setting, A Guide for Music Teachers by Rita Klinger. I think it's a great book not just for beginning music teachers, but those who are experienced and have had their Kodaly training. I really did learn so much about lesson planning in my Kodaly training, so I know I've said this before, but if you get a chance to take your Kodaly training, it just truly changed my life and my teaching. So if you get a chance to do that, it's really wonderful. But the book is a really great resource. If you're an OAKE member, then it's $20, and if you're not a member, it's $25. All right, so lesson planning. There are a lot of different, let me kind of go back here. There are a lot of different pieces, like I said, of a puzzle to put together a lesson plan. I started my own podcast recently. So if you go to iTunes and then in the podcast section, if you search for Mrs. Miracle's Music Room, then you will find my podcast, which you could just listen to for free. But I did a podcast in my series for preparing for the music room that was about writing concept plans and year plans. And I also talked in another podcast about creating song lists. So concept plans are a great way, or also known as PPPs, are a great way to kind of wrap your mind around what you're going to put into an individual lesson. So if you listen to those podcasts, that will help. And then if you go to my YouTube channel, it's just Aileen Miracle, and you look for my other videos about yearly planning, as well as creating a song list, then those are some other puzzle pieces that, really help me lesson plan. So now let's say you've written concept plans, you've written a year plan, and you've written a song list to help you figure out which songs you're going to do in your individual lessons. Let's say you've done all that, and now you just want to sit down and write a lesson. I'm going to apologize because my husband is mowing the lawn right now and it's kind of noisy. Okay, so here is a lesson plan template right here for second grade. I'm going to talk you through a little bit of this first page here, but we're actually going to start with this second page. But I'll just kind of talk you through this first page here. So I always number my lessons so I can keep track of which lesson each class is on. Because sometimes you have assemblies or you have late starts and you have some classes that are a little bit behind or actually have gotten through more lessons than another class. And so I number all of them, and then I have a sheet that I refer to every week that shows which lesson every class is on. And I find that really helpful. I chose on my lesson plan template. Well, a little background, I actually used to write all my lesson plans by hand. And then several years ago, I had a student teacher say to me, "Why don't you do this on computer?" And I said, "I don't know. I just have always done it by hand." And she said, "You should do it on computer." And I'm so glad she suggested that because now, if I want to just tweak a lesson plan that I've used before or just copy this chunk or that chunk, it's so much easier to do than to sit and write it by hand again. And God forbid, something were to happen to those paper copies. Now I save everything to Dropbox, and I can rest assured that I can always get to my previous lesson plans. So I live in Ohio, and these are all the Ohio music standards, the state of Ohio music standards. So I have all of those. And then I have musical skills. These are skills that, you'd want to get to pretty often in a music class. I don't typically have all of them checked, but I have a lot of them checked. So we have solos, reading, writing, improvisation, inner hearing, memory, books, listening, form, movement, part work, instruments, integration, and that's like cross-curricular. If you're doing a little bit of math or science or language arts or whatever in your class, you can check that. And then singing, which in my class is typically always checked. All right, and then I have college and career readiness if your district is doing that. We have independence, knowledge, audience/purpose, comprehend, critique, evidence, technology. Now, You may not be doing that, and that's perfectly fine. But a lot of districts have kind of their own initiatives. So if your district has other initiatives, you could put those there. And then these are the new national music standards. So we have creating, performing, responding, and connecting. You could be more specific and really do like the substrands. That's totally up to you. My district is really going more with the state of Ohio music standards, but I just, for my own kind of knowledge, I wanted to see where I was at with the national core art music standards. I have relationship to previous lesson and relationship to following lesson, which I find so helpful, so I know where we've been and where we're going. Materials, again, super helpful. In college, I went to Central Michigan University, Fire Up Chips, and I had a professor named Elizabeth Brown who was just I only had her for one class, and she was fantastic. And one of the things that she said to me that still sticks with me today is that you always want to make sure that before the students walk in, you have all of your materials ready. So I really like being able to just list out all the materials I need and then making sure I have them ready before the students walk in. Because, with kids, if you just step away for 1 second because you forgot to get something out, it just gives them time to, maybe not show their best behavior. So I like to have everything ready. Objectives, you can just write out, what the objectives are, but then I had a student in a Kodaly program, I think it was at DePaul, who wrote out TLW for the learner will, and I really liked that format, so I used that. I can statements, if your district uses that, I'll write those after we're done writing the lesson, and then essential question, if you want to write, kind of that overarching question, you could put that there. All right, now here I have this is really the meat of the lesson here. So CSP stands for comfortable starting pitch. And that's like if you're going to sing Hot Cross Buns and you typically start on A, then you could put A for CSP so that you remember to start there and, not sing too high or too low. That just kind of helps me make sure I think through the range of a song, because some songs, have a larger range, and if you don't really think about which note you're starting on, then you might be way up in the stratosphere with your kids or really down low. Time is super important. I just feel like I couldn't live without it when I lesson plan, and that's the minutes that you think you'll allot to each activity. Now, I don't necessarily, stick to that, really specifically. I might say something is going to take 4 minutes and actually takes 6 minutes, or I think something's going to take 6 and it takes 4, but it really helps me keep on track so that I can typically get through everything that I think I'm going to get through. Here I put the songs or activities that I'll be doing. Here I put the procedures, and this is just my style. I really do like to write out everything pretty specifically, and that's where I would do that. And then this, the transition column, I just started doing that, I think last year. I always put in transitions to my lessons, but I actually saw another student at DePaul, I think, who wrote out the transitions in a specific column, and I just really liked that, and it just really helps me think through how I'm transitioning from one activity to the next. And then down here, if I have any assessments, whether they be formative or summative, I'll write them there. And evaluation, I actually usually do that by hand, and that's like after I teach a lesson, I've printed out the lesson, I teach it, and then let's say, with every class that I've done it with, I did not get to the last 1 or 2 activities because something took longer than I thought it would. Then I would write that there just so that next time I use the lesson, I remember that. Or you could even go back and type it into the lesson. So if you do open it up on computer, you can see that note. That's pretty much the lesson plan form. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you how I would do a lesson plan. Now, I talked before about all the different puzzle pieces. So typically when I sit down and write a lesson plan, I have some information in front of me. For example, I might have a year plan here. So this is a 2nd grade year plan. And I talked about this in my other YouTube video about year plans, but I have all of these different columns, and it really gives me so much information when I sit down and write a lesson plan. So I never think to myself, I have no idea what I'm going to do with the kids, because I have all this information and activities to pull from. So I have a lot of things right here that I can do in this lesson. In each box, I think when I wrote this, I was thinking 2 lessons a week, although now I actually do only have them for once a week for 50 minutes. So if you're doing 2 lessons per box, you don't necessarily, you could do half of the activities in one lesson and half in the other. But it really gives me so much information about what I'm doing, if you look horizontally here, what I'm doing in that one lesson. And then if you look up here, you can see the goals for the year. All right, so I am going to go back to my Word document, if it'll let me. Sorry, that's actually a completed one, so I'm going to go back to this one. All right, so let's say this is like the 3rd lesson of the year. You can just put 3 there and then underline it again. And then I actually leave all of this blank until I've written out all the procedures. So then I go here, and if I go back to my year plan here, I can see the N stands for new and the R stands for review. So I can see all of the songs that I wanted to do in the activities. So I see that I want to do Bow Wow Wow, and I notice there are a few different things here. Form with Bow Wow Wow, rhythm memory for Bow Wow Wow. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to say yes, I'll start with Bow Wow Wow. And I usually start that on F. Okay. And I like to have the kids just come in and sing and play a game. I don't do anything really concentrated at first. So I'm going to say, and I abbreviate, so I'll do students, S. For students, I do S period. So students come in singing, turn towards partner, review, dance, and do, until back with original partner. Okay. And then I'm going to say, 4 minutes. A lot of games, I notice if you're just singing and playing the game, you can do in about 4 minutes. And then I like to do greetings after that, or like solos. So teacher sings to students. You can sing hello class on So Mi Do. Or actually, let's do So La So Mi, because we're working on La. If you look back here, sorry, I should have shown you that. We're reviewing quarter rest, and we are reviewing La from the previous year in 1st grade. All right, and then students sing back hello, and then whatever your name is, and then teacher sings to individual students, and students respond. And this is a great way to do formative assessments with solo singing, and that usually takes 4 minutes or so. I usually like to stay in the same key as I started when I do the greeting. So if I'm going to do So La So Mi, it's going to be a little bit on the higher end of the range, but it's doable. So I'm going to say C. But if you're starting Bow Wow Wow on D, then you could put A there. And then for transition, I'm going to say, let's sing Bow Wow Wow again. All right. Then we're going to go to Bow Wow Wow again. And I'm not necessarily going to write out every single thing that we're going to do, but just to kind of give you an idea. Students sing again, then they read, sorry, I can't type, rhythm on board, then they label form, which you could use like apples, bananas, cherries for ABC, or if you just want to use letters, you can. So they label form of phrases, which would be A, B, C, A, as it's ta, 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 ti, ti, ta, rest, ti, 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 ta, 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 rest. Okay, so label the phrases, and then teacher erases A patterns, then B, then C, until students can recite all of the rhythm. All right. So that's a little bit more of a concentrated activity that they really have to memorize. So you really want to look when you're lesson planning that you have areas of concentration, and they can just do something fun. So we're about to do something fun here. So let's say that takes we'll do 4 minutes again. All right, and then teacher changes rhythm, or so maybe the teacher has students help write the rhythm of Bow Wow Wow again, so they can like recite the rhythm back at you and you write it up there, or you could have student volunteers come up and write it again. then teacher changes rhythm to naughty kitty cat. So there's, some of the rhythm of bow wow wow and naughty kitty cat is similar. So you could just change what's different. So then you have naughty kitty cat, students ID song, then sing and play, and that's our relaxation. All right, about 4 minutes. Okay, let's do A for that. Okay, so, and I also like to put here like practice, rest, and I like to think about the three, like physical, visual, oral. So which type of learning style are you fostering to? So practice, rest, well, they're reading the rhythm, so that's visual. And then I'm trying to think here. I would say it's mainly a visual thing. They're memorizing, but I'd say mainly visual. And then I also sometimes we'll put like memory because, oh, and it's also form. So those musical skills, just so I remember to check them up here. All right, and then you go on from there. And then I'm just going to take you through a couple more things here in the lesson, even though you might be, writing for at least 30-35 minutes, but just to kind of give you an idea. So after Naughty Kitty Cat can be one of those, like what I've heard called pivot songs, in that it has ti-ti-ta rest, so you could practice rest with it, but it also starts with so, 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 la, so. And if you're working on so, la, and mi, well, great. So you could have students sing first part of Naughty Kitty Cat with hand signs. Okay, so you might even say first 4 beats, just to be specific. Okay, and that's our transition to come over here. And I just call this Melodies. Students echo other patterns with so, la, and mi. And then you could do things like you sing a pattern, they sing it back. Or then teacher plays the pattern on the recorder, and students have to figure out what it is and sing it right back. And that's, really helping them with their inner hearing and melodic understanding. So you have to sing back pattern with solfa. Okay, so we started with like a rhythmic portion to the lesson, and then we've transitioned into melodic. And then you can do some melodic work. So I'm just going to, sometimes when I map out a lesson plan, I just fill in the songs and activities first. So I might go, okay, I wanted them to do We Are Dancing, and then I might, instead of writing out all of the specifics, I might just start off by doing like sing with hand signs, just so I remember that after we sing and play the game, then we sing with the hand signs, right? And then I'm going to say, okay, then they're going to do staff flashcards, and then we're going to do pizza pizza. Oh, and I want to remember that students' ID song is call response. And oh, if we have time, let's do the book Please Baby Please, which will help us practice rest. All right, so just to give you an idea of how I write lesson plans, it's kind of up to you whether you want to do everything specifically with all of the details first, or if you want to write out that list like I just showed you and then kind of fill in those details. And then after you do all that, then you can tally up the time and make sure that it's about right. If you're like a minute or two off, it's probably going to be fine, and you might even adjust, oh, well, maybe we'll just play the game once, or whatever, just so you can make sure to fit everything in. So then after I do that, if I have any assessments, I would put them there, and then I would come back up here. And I don't know if the screencast might not actually be able to show you this, but I'll kind of talk you through it. If you're on a Mac and you want to check, all those boxes, then you go to Tools, Protect Document, and then you just hit OK. And then voila, there you go. You can just go ahead and check those off. So yes, we had reading. Did we have writing? Let's see here. Yeah, especially if students come up and write bow, bow, bow. So you can just check off everything that matches along with that, along with the National Core Art Standards, and then as well as here I have the State of Ohio Music Standards. Once you're done checking everything you want, then just go to Unprotect Document. And then relationship to previous lesson, you could say that in the previous lesson we also practiced la and rest, and hey, we're going to do that again. I also sometimes will write a note to myself, like to make sure in the next lesson we do this, maybe because in this lesson I just didn't get to it. For materials, you want to make sure you write everything you need. For example, we will need staff flashcards, and we'll need the book Please Baby Please. And then you could write out things like the learner will practice rest. The learner will practice la. The learner will memorize a song. So, memorize rhythm to a song. And then for I can statements, you might have something like, I can memorize a song, or memorize rhythm, and then I can read melodic patterns, whatever you want to do there. I usually just do 2 I can statements, even though as music teachers we do so much in one lesson, but I was told by my district just to pick, the 2 that are really the most important, and that way it's not super overwhelming to have 7 I can statements up there. And then if you had an essential question, if you are doing something that's a little bit deeper, you could put that as well. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how I write lessons. I just want to show you one more thing. If you go to my store on Teachers Pay Teachers, I do have a free lesson. If you go to the store and then you go to lesson plans, then there is a kindergarten freebie here. See if I can find it. There it is, and you can download that. And I do have lessons that come as Word and PDF, so you can really, edit them and change them as you need to. And they come with lots of the materials that you would need for each lesson. So this one has, some of them are just for one semester, some of them are for the second semester. In my kindergarten ones, I have like 10 lessons at a time. So if you're interested in that, then they are there. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Like I said, lesson planning is a pretty complex process, but I hope that this has shown you a few tricks, and let me know what you think. Just feel free to write a comment on the video, and happy lesson planning. Thanks.